The Lion King is the latest Disney live-action adaptation, except this film is completely animated, with a photorealistic look. Jon Favreau directed the film, who did an incredible job with the remake of The Jungle Book, which a lot of people still consider to be the best of these Disney remakes, because it honoured the original while still trying new things, and effectively translating the more cartoony elements into a live-action space. I'm a little more mixed on these live-action remakes, especially when they just copy and paste the story and shots of the original, and just do them in live action. That's where movies like Beauty and the Beast and bits of Aladdin fell flat for me. They were kind of boring, because there was nothing new really being done. They were just retelling the exact same story, just in live action. That's why I'm excited for Mulan, because it looks so different from the original, and feels like Mulan is actually being remade, rather than just retelling the exact same Mulan story. Now, the original Lion King is my favourite Disney animated film of all time. It's the one that I grew up watching and rewatching the most, listening to the Elton John songs, and being traumatized during the Mufasa scene. So I have a fair bit of nostalgia for Disney's adaptation of Hamlet. That being said, this live action style version of The Lion King doesn't hold a candle to the original. It's still enjoyable, especially if you have that nostalgia for the original, but I can say I'd be far more likely to just rewatch the original than rewatch the live action version. Let's face it, it's essentially shot for shot the original Lion King. There are plenty of lines and dialogue that are ripped straight from the original film, where if you know the animated movie off by heart, you could probably be sitting in the theatre reciting all the lines. There are some new elements that extend the runtime to 2 hours, but they don't make much of an impact. Thankfully, the newer elements don't feel as tacked on as the newer stuff was in the Aladdin remake. A lot of the newer stuff in Lion King just gets added to scenes that already existed. There are a few new extra characters during the Timon and Pumbaa segment, while Nala gets a bit more to say and do this time around, plus a new Beyonce song that plays during a montage. But that's really it for the additions. The Lion King story is still there as you remember it. Only this time, we've got lifelike, photoreal lions and animals singing the songs. And look, it has to be said, it is simply unbelievable how incredible this movie looks. It is scary at times, where I could have sworn I was looking at a real lion that someone had trained for the movie. In some scenes, it honestly feels like you could be watching a David Attenborough nature documentary. The attention to detail with how the animals behave and move is just insane. But this is also where the movie comes to a fault. The commitment to making the animals look and move naturally and realistically prevents the personality of the characters from coming through. And it's most notable during the songs, where the expressions of the animals aren't really changing to match the song. The natural structure of a real lion's face just doesn't contort that a way a human's does. In the cartoon, the animal designs are exaggerated. They can be more expressive and human-like, which makes it all more relatable. Whereas at times with the animals in this film, it felt like I was watching one of those Air Bud films, where it's clearly just a person dubbing lines over a dog opening and closing its mouth. But I'd be lying if I said I didn't get into the songs. They're all classics, and it was wonderful hearing Can't Wait to Be King or Hakuna Matata again. But that's the thing, my enjoyment of the songs came more from my nostalgia for them rather than how they're executed here. The only song that felt off to me was Be Prepared, and it all came down to the line delivery. Chiwetel Ejiofor takes over the role of Scar from Jeremy Irons. And while Chiwetel Ejiofor is an incredible world-class actor, he just didn't have the same weight and menace in his voice that Jeremy Irons did. Many of the iconic Scar lines that fans remember just fall a little flat, because certain words that Jeremy Irons emphasized and gave gravity to are just treated normally. So a lot of key moments with Scar feel a little off. And it's that moment of, well, we got the iconic James Earl Jones to come back and voice Mufasa. Jeremy Irons probably should have come back too. Watching this, you'll realize just how iconic Jeremy Irons was as Scar. The cast are all pretty fantastic though. James Earl Jones returns as Mufasa. That's a role you absolutely cannot recast, and it's so wonderful hearing that big booming voice once again. We don't get much of Donald Glover and Beyonce as Simba and Nala respectively, although they are incredible when they do get to sing. As with the animated film, most of the time is spent with the younger versions of Simba and Nala. So you are hearing the kid actors for most of the time. The kid actors are fine, they can belt out the songs, but some of the dialogue and delivery can feel a little Nickelodeon at times. As with how Scar was handled in the film, I felt like some key scenes between Simba and Mufasa were a little offbeat. Scenes that had more time to breathe and let the emotions set in the original film felt a little rushed at times and didn't quite gel here. Billy Eichner and Seth Rogen as Timon and Pumbaa are absolutely the standouts, as most of their jokes land. Some of the dialogue has been tweaked to better fit their comedic stylings, and it shows. Timon and Pumbaa get the biggest laughs in the film, but to be honest, that's because a lot of the humour before they get introduced kind of falls flat or can get a bit kiddie. Some characters feel like they get a little shortchanged in this version, particularly Zazu the bird and Rafiki the baboon, who seems to have less lines this time. John Oliver is fantastic as Zazu and is as good as a replacement you could get for Rowan Atkinson. But of course, Hans Zimmer returns to do the score, and it's all the familiar tunes that you remember from the cartoon that help certain scenes feel just as epic and moving as they were in the original. But in saying that, there isn't anything really new here from Hans Zimmer. If anything, this remake reaffirms that the original Lion King as an animated film got everything right the first time, and that any changes to the original are noticeable, especially as it translates to live action. So in trying to replicate that magic of the original, we've got a remake that desperately wants to be that original film without fully forming its own identity, other than just looking like a nature documentary. There's still some enjoyment to be had, primarily if you're a fan and you're nostalgic for the original, but nostalgic fans are really the ones who'll get the most out of this Lion King. The songs are classics, the animation is stunning, Timon and Pumbaa are standouts, and the Mufasa scene still gets me teary-eyed. Plus there's a cute little Beauty and the Beast reference to pay attention for. If you have kids that are interested in the film and have never seen the original Lion King, then this is a solid family outing. Although with it being live action style, the more realistic lion fights get a little scarier and more violent. Otherwise, I would say just watch the original again. That movie is still as magical as you remember it, and at this point there is no alternate version that is going to top it. The Lion King gets a 6 out of 10 from me. Guys, I hope you like this review. If you want to see more reviews just like this one, stay right here for your Mono Fix. Bye guys.